Nobody ever does that, do they? That's Al-Anon's magic trick. Would you like to watch my chewing gum disappear under the table? Okay. Good morning. Hello. Good day.
Morning.
Hey, brother.
Could you just tell us a little bit about what's it like to work with the younger generation on the Shannara Chronicles? Obviously, it's quite a bonding experience of you down there on location.
I mean, one of the endearing things about working with that young cast in the Shannara Chronicles was really the fact that, you know, New Zealand is my country, you know, and in a way, you know, Al-Anon is kind of like already the keeper of the four lands, you know, and so when they arrived, you know, I sort of had to sort of take them kind of like under my wing anyway, and show them around New Zealand and sort of give them a bit of a, because, you know, these are a young group of actors, you know, who were getting one of their first big break shows and sort of coming over to New Zealand, and you know, New Zealand's a long way from home for you know, Poppy from England and Ivana from you know, from Spain, and Austin from America. So you know, it was kind of nice. You know, I almost felt like in real life that I was you know, their father. Yeah, but it was yeah.
Were you familiar with the Shannara series before you got the role?
No, not at all. No.
Have you read the book since, or you just tried to keep it?
Yeah. You know, I kind of, well, I was intrigued because once we started doing the show, I was sort of interested in seeing. Well, you know, I lied. Before we started the show, I read you know, The Sword of Shannara, and you know, I got the feeling of how Terry wrote Al-Anon. You know, and Al-Anon would always sort of appear like on the page, like, you know, you know,
Yeah.
and but it was kind of funny because, you know, you know, and I say funny, like it was like, I remember the first scene working with the director on discovering Will for the first time, and he was in a bathtub, you know, and you know, Ivana's character Eritrea had stolen the elf stones of him, you know, and there was this moment where I thought it was kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was like Strider, you know, leaning over the top of Frodo, you know, and lightning bolt, you know, illuminates the hood, and this, you know, that's what I imagined that scene to be, and the director was like, oh, you know, this is going to be comedy. There's going to be a funny scene, you know, and I was really struck by that. I was like, really? Like, what about the dun 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 dun? You know, and he was like, no, we've discussed this scene. We're going to go, you know, this way with it. So you know, so you know, Austin sort of was, you know, directed to go like, oh, Alan, a druid. Oh, my mum told me about a druid, and it was and kind of like, you know, it set off a different tone, you know, than what I'd sort of expected at first. You know, it sort of made it like maybe jovial and jokey and friendly and stuff like that. And, you know, it was something, you know, but then it was never dun 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 with that character much, because we'd always sort of have this jive going on, you know, that started up. Am I digging a hole here? Dun, dun, dun,
Next season is going to get the musical cue.
But you know, this is some of the, you know, this was some of the way that the show was fashioned for MTV.
Yeah.
You know.
Talking about funny writing, I think you had your own experiences contributing quite a memorable spell to the series. Can you maybe tell us that story?
Can I?
Yeah, you
Am I allowed
can.
to?
You're allowed to.
Rakuf Rathon. So what happened was we had this moment where Arian? Is that his name? Okay, it was a while ago. Let me get this straight. So the two brothers, right? And is Arian? Help me out here, guys. Come on. You're pointing your cameras at me, and you're like, it's waiting for me to put my foot in my mouth. I know what you're like. Daniel McPherson's character, Arian. Anyway, okay, so there's this moment where, you know, the young prince was being, you know, killed by the Dagdamor, you know, and Alanon was you know, racing across the, I don't know, part of the Four Lands to get there to save them, and when he arrived, it was too late, and the Dagdamor had run his sword through Daniel McPherson's character, that one. Arian, right? And in the scene, it just said that Alanon stood upon the rocky outcrop, witnessing the death of the young prince, and he sent a shockwave through the ground, you know, just to stop, you know, to stop the Dagdamor. And it when it came to the moment, it was like Alanon just got up there and went like, and I thought, oh God, surely he must say something here, you know, like rather than just. And so the director said, yeah, it's a good point, but we don't have any dialogue. And I said, okay. And the director was like, can you come up with something? And I went, okay, sure. And so you know, he said, I'm going to go over here and shoot something. You can come up with something, and when I come back, we'll shoot it and use whatever dialogue you came up with. So I thought, what would Alanon say? As he watches the death of this young prince, you know, and he got there too late. And so the director came back and he was like, okay, have you got a line, a spell? I said, yeah, I got one. He went, okay, what is it? And I said, just film, I'll just break it out, you know. Yeah, okay. So he went down, he's going, okay, and action. I grabbed my staff, I hit the ground, I went, Rakuf Rethom. The shockwave went through. And the director was like, oh, it was good, awesome, that sounded great. That sounded just like Druid's speech. And I was like, yeah, cool, eh? He's like, yeah. Let's do it again. Okay, do it again. Rakuf Rethom. Awesome, that's it, got it. So we all walked down the hill, and we got into the minibus that would take us back to the production site. And the director's sitting next to me and he goes, that line sounded perfect. I was like, yeah, thanks. And he goes, what was it? Like, you just came up with it? Like, and I said, yeah, it was like, it's motherfucker backwards. it's like Alanon gets up and he's like, motherfucker. And funnily enough, I got contacted, like, we had a scene this season, on the second season, where I was in you know, I can't tell you what happened, but we're in a very, very bad predicament. And I broke it out again. There's a season 2 repeat of this line, and they know about it, right? But the lady in America, when I had to do ADR, you know, I had to do some ADR work. They said, oh, we have to repeat. She sent me this message. Said, we have to repeat that line that you said, whatever it was. What was it that you said? So I sent her this very eloquent email, you know, saying, oh, it's Rakuf Rethom. And if you read it backwards, you'll probably know what it means. So yeah, it was a very funny moment, you know, just to have that as kind of a bit of a legend behind one of the spells, and a bit of fun on set.
Talking about mother romances, obviously one of our favourite mother romances is your character on Arrow, and I think fans were so delighted to have you back and to get to continue that story. Looking to the future, what are you most excited about at finally getting to finish out that arc?
Well, you know, there's sort of some speculation going on right now about, you know, Slade's back on Arrow, you know, and then, you know, Joe Manganiello's been, you know, offered to do a Deathstroke film, which is great for Joe. You know, he's a wonderful guy. I've met him a couple of times, and he's just an awesome guy. You know, wonderful physique. He'll fit a Deathstroke costume amazingly, and you know, he'll have his own take on it. You know, and I wish him the very best. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, with all that great production quality, you know, what they can bring visually to the character. But I will say, you know, being able to do a character on television and have several series to flesh out a Slade Wilson, you know, then you can play with a lot of the grey matter, and you know, if you manage to develop that well for the TV show. But you know, on the big screen, there's going to be a new Deathstroke, and You know, so, but between the two, you know, there's always been this sort of ongoing story where Warner Brothers parent company, which is the feature film arm, you know, have requested that, you know, certain elements of Arrow's world be finished, you know, things like, you know, Deadshot and Harley Quinn, the Suicide Squad, all those things were going to be part of the Arrowverse, but, you know, have had to be held back because of the reason of the film arm wanting to reserve that, you know, for the film. You know, who knows? That's their decision making. It's their properties. You know, they know what they're doing in their game. So you know, we just play ball.
So you wouldn't say no to a Deathstroke TV series?
Listen, I mean, you know, the speculation of a Deathstroke TV series is you know, based upon fan comments that have been going on. You know, the fact that fans would like to see that. I remember somebody posted it online and sent it to my Twitter account, and I responded, yeah, it'd be cool, you know, but it'd want to be R-rated, it'd want to be dark, like, you know, like Logan, you know. I think to pay Deathstroke a real service in a TV series, you know, I think you'd want to go darker than anything, you know, like even more darker than Daredevil, darker than everything. Maybe even make it a little more international, you know, where he's sort of like an international soldier. But, you know, and I had these conversations with Mark Guggenheim after the fact, and, you know, Mark was very supportive of the idea, thought it was a great idea. You know, we bandied it around a little bit on Twitter, and people like Marv Wolfman weighed in, you know, also oh my God, Jeff Daniels from the illustrator, the Deathstroke, you know, the Deathstroke series, you know, he weighed in, you know, and everyone was going, oh, good idea, you know. So who knows, you know? I mean, at this stage, you know, I guess Warner Brothers is just looking at the feature film, you know, that announced it, so they're definitely focusing on that. And you know, who knows what will happen, you know, after that? You know, maybe they'll get to that point and fans will be like, oh yeah, more Deathstroke, you know. And if somebody asked me to do a TV series, you know, I definitely wouldn't want to sit in the PG arena, you know. I think really to pay a homage to Deathstroke independently, you'd want to go hard, you know. But Joe's got a shot at that, you know. And you know, I'd like to, you know, I'm really keen to see how gritty that script is going to be, you know, like that Deathstroke script for the film is. I wonder what its rating is going to be, you know. It'd be great if it was R-rated, and it'd be great if it was like Logan, you know. It'd be great if it was heavy, you know, really heavy, you know. But you know, that's where we're yet to see. I'm probably just as excited as everybody else to think like, what's that going to look like on the big screen, you know. Wish it was me, Joe. But good luck. Joe's a really wonderful guy, and he'll have his shot at it now. You know. The Batman mask's been worn by plenty of people, so you know, so be it.
You've had a really great range of characters in your career on TV and film. Is there anything that you haven't been able to do yet? Any sorts of characters or anything that you'd really like to be able to get at?
Well, you know, I'm kind of like, I've got a music and a dance background and a few things that are probably my involvement in the arts was not the tough guy, you know, originally, you know, like I was in, you know, I wrote piano music, you know, and did ballet and dance, you know, and these softer expressions are kind of like part of my character. But I do think I flush them out in characters, but I sort of end up using them as secondary layers that help develop the character in the audience's mind, you know, like Crixus, you know. I came on so hard with Crixus that my director walked up to me, the producer of our show, Spartacus, walked up and said, Manu, what are you doing with Crixus? Nobody likes him. He's like so arrogant and unlikable, and I was like, I know, just trust me, because you know it's and the reason I played it like that was because, you know, the reason I got into acting in the first place was, you know, I lost my mother and brother in 2 separate car accidents, and I was in the accident with my mother, and I was in a coma for like 2 weeks in a hospital. And when I woke up, you know, there were, you know, my worst enemy, the guy who was my worst enemy was at the hospital, and he'd come to see me, and you know, he'd lost his mother when he was younger, and related to this moment that I was having. So even though he was my worst enemy, he came to me because of common circumstance. And all of a sudden, him and me formed a bond and became best friends. Now, that's what I infused into Crixus and Spartacus. When I saw how that story was going to flesh out, I went, I know this story already. But it doesn't start off pretty. It starts off as enemies. And it starts off with one of the characters, one of them's playing the protagonist on the screen, then one of them has to play the antagonist hard. So I went in really hard playing Crixus as the antagonist. And everyone was like, we hate him, hope he dies, da-da-da-da-da. But to be able to turn people's feelings around, like my feelings were turned around for this friend of mine in the hospital, my enemy who became my friend, to be able to do that to people, to have them hating somebody and have them turn around completely. And potentially cry when I died. I've met men who say they cried in that scene, but they say they hated me at the beginning. And to be able to win people's emotions over like that, I think opens up possibilities, And whenever I'm playing a villain-esque kind of character, like Slade Wilson as well, I always try to infuse vulnerability, suppressed emotions, even when the other characters aren't looking. You just have this moment where you go deep inside of yourself and just sit in that pocket. And I know what that pocket is, I've had loss in my life, so I know the feeling, The funny thing is I have a lot of people from things like, I have military people from who've been in Afghanistan and have got PTSD, and they come up to me and they go, bro, Spartacus when we were up in fighting in the mountains, isolated and lost several of our team, in a firefight, and, but we all would get around and watch Spartacus. Story keeps people bonded together, and Spartacus was this sort of story that they related to. And here I am standing in front of these real warriors, these real soldiers, who are pouring their heart out to me, saying like, we really connected with Crixus, And I think to myself, how did I do that on a television show? But the thing is, as an artist, I had my brother died in my hands, to be honest, died in my hands. So I know that feeling, and I can put that in as an artist into my performance. I reserve it for that. That's my safe place for it, But, I think it's important that as an artist, you kind of you have to know life, you have to be honest, you have to be upfront, and as much as you can give, and, I try to do that with my characters, at the end of the day, I come to these conventions and stuff like that, I come face to face with the fans, I realize that that's what they kind of take in through that screen, And one thing that's very interesting about all of that I found out last year was I went to Greece, and I went to a place called Epidavros. And in Epidavros, they built the very first amphitheater. The people who built it were called the Asclepios. The Asclepios were medicine people that made apothecary and stuff like that. So they were into making medicines, and they were well known throughout Europe, and they would travel a lot with their medicines and teaching about medicine. And they built an amphitheater. The first one that was ever built was built in Epidavros. And it was built because they believed that voice and storytelling was healing. When I heard that, I suddenly felt this huge relief that I wasn't just caught up in Hollywood. That I actually had an ancient reason for being in the place that I am, when that person with PTSD comes to me, and I can say, yeah, brother, my brother died in my hands as well. And in this art form, we made an emotional connect across the void through a television screen, but it was healing, and that's valuable to me, really valuable, so, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Manny. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries, guys, thank you, cheers.